Hello, here is part 2 of Dakota's oil portrait. Last episode was about the composition or layout that I did. This one is about toning the canvas and beginning to block in color at the same time. A big reason to tone the canvas is to get rid of all the white. There's going to be a range of values from light to dark. So the brightest whites, where the sunlight is hitting his white markings, to black and other really dark colors. And it's hard to judge whether values are correct against a white canvas. I've kind of talked about this before in previous episodes, but I'll try and give an example again to explain it. So this toned gray paper against white looks darker than it does against black, as an example. So it's the same gray, but here against white is going to look darker than here against black. And so the tendency on a white canvas is values will look dark, and so you'll put them in lighter, and then when darker values go in, you realize that you have to make adjustments. It's common to tone a canvas with a gray, or for this painting, this sort of tone all over would have worked fine. But something that I've tried and like how it works is to tone the canvas with actual colors and get a head start on the painting. As I start blocking in colors, some things to mention are, number one, the paint is thinned. Partly because being thinned helps in spreading it around on the canvas, partly because I don't want any brush strokes from thicker paint at this point. I want the surface smooth. Number two, you can see there is little to no detail. It's mostly just one flat simplified color that I'm putting in for each area. The shading and details, those will be in later layers. And then number three, as you can see, after I put in a color, I am wiping it down with a rag, wiping off any excess. Again, I want the paint thin and the surface smooth, and also that helps me be able to see most of the original sketch underneath. For the color to block in the log, I did do a slight gradation from lighter on top and a bit darker in shadowed areas, but there will be a lot more detail later on. For this next section of Dakota's portrait, I hope to get the owner's okay to take some artistic license and change the coloring from what's in the photo. With the other photos all being taken outdoors, this one being an indoor scene makes it different as far as lighting and obviously different setting. I think changing the color of the bedspread to a beige or a tan and making the background a muted gray-green color and keeping it out of focus will just help it blend into and go together better with the rest of the painting. In the original photo, the bedspread looks like it's white, but it has a pinkish cast in areas, probably from a lamp that's lighting the room. So again, hoping that some color changes just make this part of the painting more cohesive with the rest. Here's a quick look at how the painting is coming along so far, and then it's on to the background of the head study. I've mixed up and thinned down a green that's kind of an average of the color and the value of the grass and brush in the background of the photo. So I brush that on and scrub it around, have a little bit of darker shading here and there. But anyway, get that scrubbed on and then smooth it out with a rag. So the lighting in this action scene is much, much warmer than the rest of the pics. It's a very warm golden color overall. I think doing montage portraits is a bit of a balancing act. I try to create balance in the composition, and then for the coloring in each scene or section, I want to be at least somewhat true to the original pic, but also not be jarringly different in the overall scheme. I'll be putting some effort into blending where the different parts meet. Okay, I've skipped over the block in of that dark gray log in the action scene because I goofed and had my video setting at slow-mo, which isn't going to work. So moving on to the puppy person water scene. So continuing, putting in here's some golden color on the other shore and its reflection. And then there's some in the background on that opposite shore, some trees. There's actually some buildings and a dock and whatnot. But with the owner's okay, I'm going to omit those and just simplify. Um, I think it just is distracting the more that's put in there. So this part of the painting is going to be probably the most challenging for me. Water is something that I just struggle with. And so when I see artwork of artists that are really good at water, I really, enjoy it and appreciate it because it is not easy for me. But got the basics put in, at least good enough for toning the canvas and blocking in the main colors. And I'll just have to deal with the water later. Here's another quick update on how the painting is looking. Now that the background is mostly blocked in, it's time to start working on the star of the portrait. Starting here with the pink colors, as you can see, to do the tongue and around the nose and the eyes. And then staying in the pink family and lightening it up a bit for the skin tone of the young gal who's holding Dakota as a puppy in this scene. I skipped over some of the block in here. The small areas of color on the bird were so quick to do, it takes me longer to set up the tablet for videoing than it does to paint them. Anyway, moving on to the dog, I mostly did kind of a two-tone effect. I've got a dark brown and I'm indicating just really simplified the areas where his brown is on the shadowed side and leaving the lighter brown from the initial sketch for areas where his brown coat is more lit. And so basically, a shadowed side and a lit side for the dog's markings. Since this larger head study is the central focal point of the portrait, I did use more colors for the block in, starting with this dark brown for the darkest areas. And then a medium brown for areas of the brown coat that are catching more sunlight. And lastly, a medium and medium dark gray for shadowed areas of the white part of his coat. Back to the smaller action scene, and I am simplifying again. Basically, dark brown for where the brown parts of the coat are in shadow, and gray where the white parts are in shadow. So I have to mention apologies for the bumps and jiggles like that. My iPad is the only thing I have to do the videoing, and there are many times where it's awkward. Basically, I'm having to jury rig and set up the iPad where normally my face or my head would be to paint. And so it's often awkward. I am bumping it with my head, and then sometimes also it's at an odd angle to both be able to video and to paint and at least part way see what I'm doing. One of these days I hope to have a GoPro and or a digital camera, but for now I have to make do. Anyway, I'm very close to being done with the toning combo block in part of the painting. And at this stage, I'm going to let all of this dry before I move on to more painting. I hope you'll stay tuned for part 3 as I continue to work on this portrait. Thanks if you'll subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.